just want to look at these random fellows here.
Good looking, huh?
You guys, I feel like I'm at a NASCAR race. It is TexAgs Radio. We call this the TexAgs Rewind. Lee Cruz in the house, Kelly Adams, Matt Browning. We had a fun show today. Before we talk about these knuckleheads, we did talk about fall camp. Day one was in the books yesterday. We talked about it today. We'll talk about tomorrow, whatever. You understand what I'm getting at. 22 and 22, Isaiah Rakes. He can plug up that middle. He was number 17 on the list. Aaron Torres around college football. And the fan show guys. So if we were to give out awards today for who did first, second, and third on the fan show, I think we all agree that Lee Cruz gets first place.
Lee knocked out.
No, you got to go with the sponsor.
He's having a rebuilding week. We hope for a little more next week from him, and we'll see how it goes.
Kelly did all right. Matt, you did all right.
Wasn't my best.
I showed up. What can I say?
Wasn't my best.
You know what I don't like? We had a big list of things I wanted to talk about, but we had such good discussion early on. Just watch. You'll see what I'm talking about.
Long-winded.
But I found my Michael Clemens.
Who would that be?
And when I say I found my Michael Clemens, different body structure, but like a physically imposing human being that I'm going to watch for a while. His name is Chris Marshall.
Okay.
That guy is bigger than I expected. And when I say bigger, not only just taller, just looks thicker in his uniform than I was expecting. I think in my mind I'm thinking about the basketball player Chris Marshall, forgetting he's had a little bit of time to put on some muscle and get with it with an SEC program. But he looks like a big dude. And by the way, you know who else looks really big? Noah Thomas.
Yeah.
Like,
he is really big.
I thought of him as a skinnier big guy. He's got some muscle on him. He's a big dude.
Yeah. You know, I've told this story before, but and for the life of me, I can't remember why I was covering a Florida at Vanderbilt game. I guess I was just I was living in Nashville, so I wanted to get a firsthand look at Tim Tebow.
Sure.
But I was also doing a story on Charlie Strong as a defensive coordinator at Florida at the time. And so after the game, I went on the field and I was talking to Charlie. And we're walking across the field, and I just was looking at some of the guys they had, like Carlos Dunlap and, you know, some of the defensive linemen that were there. And I remember being struck at that time just how enormous these guys were. You know, I mean, there's big, and then there's another
level.
And I see the same thing with A&M now.
Yeah, no, and I remember saying that last year when I went to camp for the first time after covering the University of Houston for a few years and seeing what they had as big and getting here was another level. I would say we've stepped it up a notch even since last year.
Yeah, because some of your big guys from last year
bigger
are just bigger
or stronger
and stronger. You know, Fathery, huge guy, but he looks great. McKinley Jackson, that's another guy. I'm like, golly, look at that guy. And then you see Walter Nolan wearing that number 88, and just Adelier.
Not Rock. Rock.
He is a rock.
Yeah.
See him roll.
Yeah. So yesterday I spent most of my time watching the quarterbacks and the wide receivers. And by the way, I am liking some of these changes that we saw with coaching staff.
Well, let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that. So Damian Craig was working with the quarterbacks yesterday, something he has done in the past, but not at Texas A&M. He's been the wide receivers coach here for a long time. James Coley, who is now the co-offensive coordinator, we've seen him working with tight ends. Yesterday was working with the wide receivers. Daryl Dickey was working with the tight end. So a little bit of a shakeup, and I like this shakeup. I was watching the coaching, like what kind of how they were communicating, how they were working. Damian Craig was very involved with the quarterbacks, showing them their movement, the right way to move out of the pocket, instructing where their eyes should be. Very vocal, very calm demeanor. Coley, to me, was funny. I was up close. He was funny. He was very involved. He instructed. He tested the guys. It was just great to see them. I didn't get to spend as much time with Daryl Dickey, but I did see those guys very impressed with the way they were approaching it. And I think this change, they've been alluding to it for a while. They want big plays. Coley was known for big plays when he was at the University of Miami working with their quarterbacks. And obviously he's working with the wide receivers, but as co-offensive coordinator, I think they had the most explosive offense for 3 years when he was there. And we're going to see some of that now. OB, number 17 is?
Isaiah Rakes.
Time to rake the coals.
Or just rake them.
Just rake them.
Then
it doesn't make sense, but
whatever.
Rake the leaves.
Just rake them.
Rake at the yard. He is a guy that can plug the middle up pretty nicely, and he can move humans around.
he's that. More importantly, humans have a hard time moving him around.
There you go. But he moves them while they try.
That's right. He's that guy that if you're a stat person and you look at Isaiah Rake's stats, you think, okay, this guy's not very good because he had like 8 tackles last year.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know football, and especially if you know that position, you don't even look.
It's not a stat.
That.
Yeah.
It's like looking at an offensive lineman for yards game. It's not what he's about. If you can get a sack from there, it's great. But Isaiah Rakes is in there to wreak havoc,
plug the hole,
mess things up,
and
help create space for your linebackers.
Redirect offensive linemen in another direction, create holes for others, and also create havoc when they try to run the ball up the middle.
And, I go back, though, talked about it before, go back to the Alabama game right after A&M tied it at 38. The first play for Alabama after that, they run Brian Robinson's running right. They think they're going to take advantage of DeMarvin Leal on a pass rush because DeMarvin's coming upfield because they think, well, they're going to have to throw it. So I know they're thinking, okay, we're going to run right where he's supposed to be and get a big play to get us started. And the center and the right guard are trying to double team Isaiah Rakes. And he fights them off. They can't push him back. And while they're trying to get, push him back and everything, he fights them off and moves horizontally down the line of scrimmage and just bottles everything up and it gives DeMarvin time to recognize what's going on and come off this pass rush and come back and get Robinson from behind.
Yep.
And Rakes was in on that, was even despite being double teamed, was actually in on that tackle too.
Because the Pac-12 commissioner, I'll say this really quick. I thought I wasn't at media days last week. It wasn't far from me, but I had a personal, family commitment last week. And so I didn't get to media days, but the Pac-12 came out kind of cocky and then the Big 12 kind of got cocky back. It's a slap fight between what is essentially the leftovers of the Pac-12 and the leftovers of the Big 12. I do, the one thing that I keep going back to with that, the one thing I will say, I do feel like if leaving the Pac-12 for the Big 12 was such a no doubt about it home run, I feel like it would have been done by now by the schools that are, I think, being courted by the Big 12. And so to me, I don't think the money's that different. I think for those corner schools, Utah, Colorado, the Arizona schools, I do think it's about, is there real safety in staying in the Pac-12 with these other, 6 to 10 schools? So that's the interesting thing from the Pac-12 perspective is if the Big 12 was such a home run, why isn't it done by now, David Nuno? Because, that contract's up. They're all basically free agents in a year or two, and they're all looking for stability. And I do wonder why that move hasn't been made if it's such a home run.
What is on my mind? I was at the TexAgs kickoff. Fantastic, by the way. Always love that event. Please never stop doing that. It's fun. The start to the season. I love it. But we had our wives with us, which is fantastic. Love taking them to the event. And the thing that they remarked about the most is probably the thing that resonated with me the strongest. Every one of those men's coaches is class all the way.
Yes, they are.
You can tell we have the right guys in charge. And they're all different, right? Jimbo's down in the little minutia talking about the details of the team. And then you got Buzz, and he's up in the stratosphere with, a 30,000-foot view of the world as we know it. And then you got Schloss, who comes in and cleans it up. That little pun there for baseball. He was fantastic. Love Schloss. Love Buzz. Love Jimbo. Love where the men's athletic department is right now.
Love that.
Culture builders.
Yeah, they are.
Culture builders.
That's a pretty strong way to start.
Hey, I don't.
You guys are done.
Kelly goes next. I'm out.
Kelly,
quit.
dude, it's
I'm
gonna
not
be
following that.
Oh, excuse me, Lee. It's gonna be the Lee show. No more of the fan show. Sorry, just Lee by
The
himself.
Lee Show, sponsored by Gerard Construction.
Kelly, follow that up, big guy.
Well, most people tell you there's really very little on my mind most days. With that being said, I was enjoying the updates from the pool party. We got Hill, the linebacker. Malachi Nelson was here, and we don't have a quarterback in that class. And for a long time it was wringing our hands and what are we going to do with recruiting and why are we not ranked and why this and why that. And a lot of people were let Jimbo do his thing. Well, the thing's starting to move a little bit, and some of these guys will show up at Kyle Field this fall, and it's always rocking. And I think we're going in the right direction.
I like that too.
The pool party gave the cliff jumpers a little pause, didn't it?
Yeah.
They were ready to bail. And
There's always cliff jumpers.
Yeah. Oh, it's TexAgs, but I mean, especially the forums. But yeah, I mean, they were ready to bail, and this was the worst recruiting class in history, and just give them time. Small class. It's going to be a small class. It was going to be a small class from the get go. You can be a little more selective.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that they talk about it, and Peyton talked about this the other day too. He said, yeah, A&M can't even get a top 5 class because there's not enough guys left to go and get undecided. Well, there is nobody. They're all undecided in the eyes of this staff. I mean, they're going to go. If you're committed, they don't care. They're going after you. If they want you, they're going to go after you. We don't get them all. Yeah, I get it, but I mean that was impressive. That was a super impressive weekend for us. So.
All right, Matt, what's on your mind?
Well, that was kind of it, but
okay.
Stole it.
Something else. I wish I haven't missed the TexAgs kickoff in a while, and I missed it this year. But yeah, I saw some of the highlights. Super impressed. All the coaching is just, and we've talked about this over and over. How these teams seem to have, especially the basketball and baseball this year, was just such grit.
Yeah,
and so tough, mentally tough. Everything else. I want to see that same thing out of this football team.
I'm just going to look awkwardly into the camera and ask you to do what I'm telling you to do with my head. What am I telling you to do? Tell him.
Subscribe, like, comment, share.
You did it too? You're all in?
Yeah.
All right, guys.
I got one of them.
All right. Thanks so much for watching. This is the most awkward.
We're out.
Awkwardest
This
is
is
not a
done.
word,
We're
right?
finished.
Lee, you were an
Not today.
educator.
No,
Awkwardest.
it's not.
The most awkward ending we've ever had on this program.
All good. I mean,
Most
every one of them's
awkward is a bold statement.